Today, we're diving into something that feels, well, pretty universal right now. In a world with more information than ever, why does it feel like we've all just stopped listening? It's like we're building these invisible walls around ourselves, getting defensive, and all this incredible wisdom just bounces right off. So what's going on here? Let's get into it. So let's start with a symptom I think we can all recognize. Whether it's advice from our parents or grandparents, guidance from experts, or even wisdom from ancient traditions. In some cultures, this is called nasihat. There's this almost knee-jerk reaction to resist it. We're way more interested in the shiny new thing than in time-tested wisdom. And honestly, it's created a huge disconnect. To really understand why we're plugging our ears, we first have to zoom out and look at a massive cultural shift in where we, as a society, even place our attention. Okay, look at this. It's like a complete 180. Traditional societies were all about looking to the past. They revered their elders and their ancestors as this deep well of wisdom, right? So knowledge naturally flowed from the old to the young. But modern society, we've totally flipped a script. We're obsessed with the future, and we see that future embodied in the child. And in doing that, we've basically severed that critical link. We've cut the cord for passing down generational wisdom. But here's the thing. This whole generational break, it's really just the surface. It's a symptom. To get to the real diagnosis, the thing that's actually causing the problem, we have to look at our most fundamental relationships, the ones inside our own families. Now, this might sound a little weird at first because we shower our kids with so much affection, so much love. We give them all the things. But what we often fail to give them is respect. We don't always treat them like actual individuals whose own thoughts and feelings really matter. I mean, think about it. People will make huge life decisions, like moving to a whole new city, without ever once asking their kid for their input, completely forgetting that that kid's entire world is about to be turned upside down. And that right there creates a deep inner void. The philosopher Meetin Barbarello just nails this idea. He says, love is the flame, respect is the glass that protects it. Without that sturdy container of respect, the flame of love just gets blown out by the first gust of wind, and what's left behind is this emptiness, this void. What a powerful image. So we've got this void inside, created by a lack of respect. Now we're getting to the absolute heart of the issue, the specific trauma that actually carves out that void. And to really get this, we have to make a super important distinction between two very, very different ideas. First, let's talk about shame, or utanma. And I know that word has a lot of baggage. But in this context, shame itself is not the bad guy. It's actually a virtue. It's that pang you feel from a sensitive conscience when you know you've messed up. It's a sign that your moral compass is actually working. It's a signal of your humanity. But being shamed, or utandaroma, is a whole different beast. See, this isn't an internal feeling. This is an external act that is inflicted on us. It's a trauma. And when it happens in childhood, it's devastating. It attacks our core sense of self-worth and just hollows out our inner world. So how does this trauma get inflicted? It's through this relentless storm of negativity, usually from the very people we depend on for our survival. Constant blame, always being compared to someone else, constant judgment. And maybe the most damaging of all, the threat of having love withdrawn if you don't perform, if you don't meet expectations. This is what creates that deep hidden wound. So what happens when a person is walking around carrying this inner void, this wound of being shamed? Well, our consciousness is an amazing survival mechanism. It goes into self-preservation mode. It builds a fortress, a defensive structure, to protect that fragile, wounded part of ourselves. And this fortress usually has 3 layers of defense. The first, outer wall, is ignorance. And we're not talking about a lack of education. This is an active refusal to accept any new truth or advice that might challenge that fragile sense of self. If that wall is breached, the second one goes up, bigotry. This is where we cling to a group, an ideology, a tradition for dear life, because it gives us a substitute identity and a feeling of safety. And if even those walls are threatened, the final defense kicks in, brute force. Just lashing out with anger and aggression to protect that core wound from ever being seen. Okay, so the diagnosis is clear, and the consequences are, pretty serious. But, and this is the important part, there is a path to healing. The thing is, it's not about just getting more advice or being told what to do. In fact, that's the very thing those walls are designed to keep out. The way forward is about engaging in a totally new kind of process. This is the crucial point. Healing doesn't come from being told what to do. That's the nasihat. It comes from exploring how to do it. That's the nusl. You see the shift? It's a move away from passively receiving information to actively building ourselves up from the inside out. And this process involves developing 3 core human powers. First, a scientific attitude, which is really about approaching the world with curiosity and reason. Second, artistic sensitivity, which is how we connect with what's unique and original in ourselves and in others. And finally, philosophical understanding, the search for meaning, the quest to build a strong and coherent inner life. At the end of the day, this is what the entire journey is really about. The goal is not to become a better copy of someone else just to get their approval. No way. The goal is to heal that inner void so that you can finally become what you were always meant to be, a unique original. And that leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. Think about it. All those defenses we build, the ignorance, the bigotry, the brute force, they all push us towards conformity, towards imitation. It feels safer. But true healing, real wholeness, lies in the exact opposite direction. It lies in the courage to be an individual. So the real challenge for every single one of us is this. In a world that is screaming for you to conform, how will you protect your uniqueness?